Well, let's talk about this because there's been chatter on various fan sites that there's people concerned that the association with Zara and the stunting is causing Louis to lose fans. I don't agree. I think a lot of people are switching to they're going to Blue Sky and they're getting off of Twitter. So there's the accounts that are being they're inactivating themselves. So this has been a this has been a talking point for the last little while, and because this is not the first time that people have said that there's a stunt going on, and this time the stunt involves Zara McDermott, and you know it's not gossip about the thing about stunting, like stunt relationships, PR relationships. This is a real thing, and it speaks to narrative, perception, and how relationships, whether they're real or staged, how that trickles down into the larger mythology of Harry Styles and Louis Tomlinson and the whole, you know, Larry Stylinson arc. So let's start with the basics. Zara McDermott is a former Love Island contestant and TV personality who's been publicly linked to Louis Tomlinson in recent months. And media outlets describe the relationship as moving fast. The most recent news out of the Daily Mail last week was that now they've moved in together. Zara's been seen making TikToks and Instagram content from Louis' North London home. Paparazzi photos and subtle PR leaks paint them as being in a honeymoon phase, smiling, casual, domestic. And tabloids like The Sun and Daily Mail have framed it as Louis finally settling into something stable after years of being portrayed as single or attached to fleeting relationships. So, from a mainstream perspective, this looks like straightforward to people that have connected. But in fandom spaces, especially with Larry Stylinson, this development has raised eyebrows. And to understand why Zara's presence matters so much, we need to rewind. So, since 2010, Larry Stylinson, the idea that Harry Styles and Louis Tomlinson have been secretly together during and after One Direction has been one of the most enduring fandom theories, which is not a theory to me. It's pretty much, it's like Elton John, rumor doesn't go away, it's probably true. But for the One Direction fandom is split. Like some see Larry as a conspiracy that's fueled by over reading interactions. Others believe that the secrecy is deliberate, enforced by management contracts, image control, and public relationships designed to distract. Then there's also the people that say, "Oh, it's like queer baiting," which you see accusations of it with Harry, with Louis, with Larry, and then even the young blood's been accused of queer baiting. So cannot win. So within this framework, every time Louis is linked to someone new, fans will ask, is this real? Is this PR? Or is it a strategy to keep the spotlight away from his rumored connection with Harry? And Zara, in this sense, isn't just Zara. She kind of represents the latest installation in a long-running saga of public pairings meant to shape Louis' image. But so too Harry. I mean, the latest with Harry is that apparently that him and Zoe Kravitz have been caught kissing. Okay, whatever. So the media narrative around Zara and Louis leans heavily on words like serious, domestic, romantic. And why? Why? Because it plays into two goals. One, to make Louis appear more traditionally settled, accessible, and even relatable to a mainstream audience. Two, to distance him from the persistent Larry rumors by proving a visible heterosexual storyline. And this isn't new. In the past, Louis has been linked to Eleanor Calder, Danielle Campbell, and other women who conveniently appeared at moments of heightened Larry speculation. Fans notice the patterns: time pap walks, social media appearances, and magazine exclusives. And, that's why Zara's presence doesn't just pass quietly, it's right against a decade of suspicion. So far, how has this fandom responded? So, on Reddit and Twitter, some fans see Louis and Zara as genuinely happy. They post clips of her cooking in his kitchen or smiling on his sofa, suggesting comfort and real intimacy. Others argue that this is another PR arrangement. They point out the timing, the sudden rush of press, and the way Zara benefits from being linked to a global pop star. On Tumblr and in Larry circles, reactions are sharper. Many see this as transparent damage control, another way to keep Larry buried. The refrain is, if it's real, why does it look so staged? Exactly. The fandom divide highlights just how powerful the Larry narrative still is, years after One Direction ended. So it's been 10 years since One Direction played their last concert. So now let's zoom out. Louis Tomlinson has always been the band member most aggressively paired with women in the media. That is true. From the early 1D days, his image was molded to counterbalance Larry's speculation. Harry, meanwhile, was allowed to project ambiguity, gender fluid fashion, openness about not labeling sexuality, and relationships with women that felt less domestic, more artistic. Then there's the famous clip of Louis holding hands with Eleanor and Harry throwing like a soccer ball at them, which is so not kind of characteristic of Harry. And he sits down and he's crying. So that was I think it was like a cell phone video that someone made because people were screaming, "Oh my God, Louis, Eleanor!" And then you see Harry on the side, like looking upset. So when Louis is publicly linked to Zara, many fans see it as less an organic romance and more as another chess move in a long PR game. Record labels and management teams rely on these narratives. They aren't always fake relationships, but they're always framed for maximum brand impact. And here's where things get interesting. From a Larry perspective, Zara represents both presence and absence. Her presence in Louis' home videos suggests stability, but her timing, her background, and the public rollout scream orchestration. Larry fans argue if Louis was truly free, would he broadcast Zara so openly and so suddenly? Or is this yet another carefully managed distraction to bury what still lingers between him and Harry? The point to recent slips like Louis accidentally liking Larry-related content online or Larry's lyrics that seem to reference hidden love all fuel that flame. And through this lens, Zara is not competition, she's camouflage. So the Zara development also reveals something about perhaps some fandom psychology, which I'm not sure if I agree with this one, but for long-term Larry believers, every new public girlfriend can feel like a betrayal and a confirmation. Betrayal because it seems like a denial of Larry. Confirmation because the sheer effort to stage relationships suggests something is being hidden. I mean, Occam's razor, it's kind of obvious to me that it's a stunt. You see it in the fan edits, Tumblr posts, and the YouTube compilations. Every Zara TikTok becomes a symbol not just of Louis' personal life, but of a much larger struggle between authenticity and industry control. So does Zara and Larry? Ugh, of course not. Lord, really? Seriously? Come on. Obviously not. Obviously. Louis and Zara may be happy, or they may be performing. Either way, the Larry lens doesn't disappear, just reframes because the truth is the truth, as plain as the eye can see. So to fans, especially us who believed it for over a decade, if not a decade and a half, counting, Zara's not the end of the story. She's just the most recent stunt chapter. Bookmark, peripheral bookmark. And maybe that's the real power of Larry Stylinson. No matter who comes into their lives, the narrative never dies. It adapts, it evolves, and keeps us pulling back. So, I mean, all you got to do is look at the body language. The body language is just so telling. I mean, the guy does not look into it. The guy just look at the glint in his eye when you see him with Harry back in the day. And then you look at the glint in the eye that's missing with Zara and all the other people. And it wasn't even there with Eleanor, who I think was a really close friend of Louis, actually. Um, so it makes me think, why was it so natural and effortless with Harry? Well, because what's real is real and real cannot be hidden. It's like that saying, three things can never be hidden for long: the sun, the moon, the truth. And the truth is so obvious because body language, micro expressions, all those things, they are so instinctive. You don't even have to think. Mirroring is something that is like you can choreograph it, but it takes a lot of practice. It's very staged. But then these two were able to mirror just impromptu all the time. It was like so synchronistic. It was you even on stage they could do it. You're not looking at each other, they could do it. They could mirror like tempo. When you think of like pairs figure skating, there was that famous Russian pair of Grinkov and Gordeva. And unfortunately, Sergei Grinkov died at a very young age. But if you ever watch them when he was still alive, because they were married and had a young daughter when he passed, it's really sad. But if you were to watch their performances, they were so in sync. Like when they would spin, when they would move, um, that's what I'm talking about. Like, yes, you could argue that it was maybe because they were always practicing together, but no more than any other like paired skating duo. But why were they so in sync? Well, because there was more than just competition.